So hello and welcome back. This particular session will be all about React inline styling. Now many of you must think that particular thing. Inline styling means having the CSS styling applied inside the code where we've written the tag, the particular HTML tag only. So although this is not a very encouraged practice, but say we have at least two reasons why to study it. First of all, for knowledge sake. And second reason is we'll be seeing some particular scenarios in which we might have to use this this styling technique in order to get the job done. So let's get started. I hope you are able to see my display now. Now, in this particular HTML element, if we just start writing code from memory, we'll say something like style equals to color, and color, let's say we are saying red. So why I'm doing this is, even the most experienced of developers, they tend to forget the criteria that's been happening here, and we have repeated it several times. So I hope you all have grasped this particular phenomena up till now, which is that this is not plain HTML. But it looks so similar to the plain HTML, and that we often tend to use the older practices, the older versions that we've learned using the previous knowledge we had about HTML and CSS. So if you see, if it was a plain HTML element, we might be able to successfully write this particular, add this particular styling in this h1 tag of ours, which says that apply the styling of and turn the color of this particular text to red. But if we just try to simply write this here, you can see the error that we are getting is the style prop expects a mapping from style properties to values, not a string. So what it's basically saying is that it's expecting some sort of key and value pairs, a mapping as parameters inside this style attribute. So what it basically saying is, let me remove this first. So it's actually expecting an object right here, and we know that in JavaScript we denote objects using these curly braces, these opening and closing curly braces, and inside these braces we have the key and value pairs. So remember, this key will be a normal word right here, and the value is represented in inside quotations. So this will be a string, and unlike CSS, we'll be separating these key value pairs. We'll be separating these key value pairs using comma instead of a semicolon, because that's how we write these key value pairs as objects inside JavaScript. So if we have a look about our style right here, we know that we have a property of color, and the value that, so the color will be acting as a key right here, and the value that we have to substitute the color we want to have this particular hello world to be painted in is red, red. And if let's say I was adding some more properties for this particular object, we can keep on adding them by separating every consequent one with a comma. But since I have only one with me right now, so I'm not separating it in any way. Now, so since we only have one property, and to demonstrate something to you, I have collapsed this particular object, but since it is enclosed inside these two curly braces, it is an object. Okay, now heading to here on the style property, we know that this HTML will work if we work according to the standard practices that should be used, as in the case of JavaScript, because this is, although it looks like plain HTML, it is not. And we've seen that in order to write JavaScript code, in order to make it work, we need to write those JavaScript expressions and that particular JavaScript code inside these two curly braces. So, and from the error we saw previously, it was asking us to write the particular code, the attribute and whatever we wanted to in the form of an object. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut and paste this particular object right here. Now you must know why I showed it like this in a meticulous manner to you, creating an object separately and then writing it, is because people tend to confuse with these two curly braces, these consequent curly braces occurring one after the other. So if you break it down into the very fundamentally, like how it's actually working is, so we know that we are writing a JavaScript code. In order to execute it, we need to wrap it inside these curly braces, and what is being expected inside these curly braces is in JavaScript object having the key value pairs corresponding to whatever property, whatever styling, let's say, we want to apply to this particular tag. So we'll just cut this and paste it inside this and it will work. Now in order to, so even though you might understand what these two consequent curly braces stands for, but it will be a better practice to just wrap this inside a constant. Let's call our constant style so we don't get confused between the spelling of these. And now we'll just pass this constant styl inside this style property. So you can see the color is now turned, the color of this particular text has now turned red, and this way we are able to apply styling to our HTML element without creating an external file inside, without writing the code in this external file of styles.css. Now the question arises, why we need to do this? So even though if you go through the official React documentation as well, they have clearly encouraged you, they have mentioned it several times that in the standard practice we should always try to keep our styling separate. We should always write all the code that is associated with the styling of your elements inside an external file. But we still have to learn this because there will be some scenarios in which, based on some particular condition, based on some conditional scenario, you might be required to alter the styling of your elements. Now what I mean by this is there might be some conditions or a criteria, like during the day this particular element of ours have to have to show this particular styling, and during the night time the styling of our element should change like this. So here we see that the condition based on which the styling have to change is day and night one, or it could be based on a particular or a special day. And you might have observed this particular phenomena in many popular websites when there, let's say there's Republic Day or there's something special. So the people tend to use certain colors or certain stylings as to make the consistent theme of the entire website suiting that particular occasion. So if, let's say, I am then required to alter this particular color of this styling, I will not have to touch this particular code right here. I can do it just by applying by tapping inside the color, this key which is the color one inside the style object. So we know how to tap into the properties of objects, the attributes inside it, by appending the dot operator. And if I say style.color, then it will start pointing to this particular color. And let's say we now want to change this to yellow. So now you can see, without touching this particular code or without even altering or doing anything with this particular object right here, we were able to change the color of our hello world. So let's say if you Google about the styles or the CSS properties that we can apply on the elements, you can see there are lots and lots of them. So let's pick someone up. Let's say the background color one. So if we need to add several properties right here. We have to separate them using a comma. Now you might be thinking that we should write it like this, but you know, this kebab case convention, it is relevant only when we are writing CSS code. But this right here is not CSS, this is JavaScript. And which convention is prescribed for JavaScript? It is the camel casing one. So in this, every subsequent word, the first letter of every subsequent word should be capitalized. So let's say I do it like this, and I apply one more property, let's say border, and 1 pixel solid, and let's make it green. So why I added this border property? Just to demonstrate to you that, like just as in CSS, when we write this these attributes which consist of several values like this one, you similarly as in the case of CSS, we just have to separate them using simple white spaces. So you can see we've just added these particular attributes inside our object, and we have our HTML element and the styling applied to this particular element accordingly. So for this particular concept of inline styling, I hope you are now able to understand it. I will be providing the completed version of the sandbox, and you can just play around. You can head over to this particular article, and all these particular CSS stylings, just remember to use the camel case notation, the camel case convention, and try applying these or even changing the text and whatnot for this particular sandbox of ours. So let's move on to another topic. Now we'll try to flex our muscles using whatever muscle memory we've gained, and in this session we'll be having a practice of regarding the styling practices we've learned in the previous sessions. So let's get started. This is the initial sandbox, whose link I will be providing you along with the course resources. So as you might be pretty familiar with the notation in which we attempt our practice sessions. So we have to create a React app from scratch. The final result should display. Okay, there's one heading which should display its day and night if the time is between 6 AM and 6 PM, and it should display its night and dark if the time is between 6 PM and 6 AM. So it's basically saying like 6 AM in the morning to 6 PM in the evening. If the current time of your system, in one of the previous sessions, we have discussed how to extract the current time from the system itself without you hard coding it. So if it's in the morning, let's say during the light hours, the display should be this one, and if it is between 6 PM in the evening to back to 6 AM in the morning, it will be its night and dark. Okay, let's do this first. Although if you prefer, even most of the developers, they tend to have this template code with them, and when they want to start creating another project, they just copy paste it back from their archive storage. But since we all are beginners in React, I would prefer you guys to always write it from scratch, because not only it will help you like maintain a hand over these lines, because right now we have only these 3 lines, but when we move further, when we keep expanding our project and make it more complex than we have right now, we'll have several lines of code, and what happens is eventually we tend to forget what some of the lines stand for. Like in the case of many hackathons, you know, the coders who have the habit of just filling out functions, they mess up when they are required to write all the code from scratch. So we don't want to turn out like them. Now, first thing we need is a header tag, and in this, let's say we are displaying something. Now something is here. Now the next thing that we want to display is okay, let's keep it this way first. Now first what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a date object, because we not data transfer, date, like this, because we need to extract stuff from this particular date. Specifically, we need to extract the hours, which hour is currently the time is showing. So let's call it current time. And how to get the current time? By writing date.get hours. So via this, we are tapping into the get hours function of the date object. So let's see by console logging what this current time variable of ours is showing. So you can see, since it is 5:50 right now, 17 is being displayed. So the point here is that whenever we try to use this get hours method from the date object, the time that we get is in the 24-hour format, which means if your time is 3 p.m. you will see 15, if your time is 8 p.m. you will see 20, and so on, like 0 corresponding to 12, like midnight, and 23 corresponding to 11 p.m. So it is saying something. First, let's create a variable called greeting. Okay, so you can see that I have used let here. Let's talk a little about this. So in JavaScript, we have 3 methods of initializing our variables in order to mention what keyword we are using. Number 1 will be a constant. Number 2 is a where, and number 3 is a let. So constant is basically something, as the name suggests, the particular variable that you are going to initialize using this constant flag. It will signify that this particular variable is unchangeable, which means it will stay like it. Okay, let me demonstrate this by creating one variable, let's say 10. Now our constant, which is a const here, if further down the line I try to modify its value, you can see I will get some error, assignment to a constant variable. So the point is, whenever you are initializing a constant, and if you assign a value to it right here, it is not changeable throughout the code. The second method that we have is, okay, let me do like this. The second method to display our variables is where, and in this case it is changeable, and it works pretty much like we've been using it up till now. And the third one is let. Now the constant one is pretty clear, but there's some rivalry between these two methods, let versus where, let's say. So what is the difference between a let and a where? I want you guys to research around this to find out, let's say, at least 1 or 2 points as to when is a user supposed to use let as compared to where. I'm assigning you guys this particular difference as a homework, and the solution we'll be discussing in the next session. So right here we have this greeting here, and let's say we want to display this variable here dynamically. So since initially there's nothing inside it, Now we have our current time right here, and we know it is representing the hour which our current clock is showing currently in 24-hour format. So let's apply some logic here, and here we'll say if our current time is less than 18, which means like the current time is before 6 p.m. in the evening, and the current time is greater than 0. So 0 will stand for, no, let's make it 6. Yeah, because we want from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. If this is the case, let's display, or rather store, its day and bright inside our greeting variable. So you can see, since the current time I am having is 5:55, something around that, so it is displaying its day and bright. And if it's the opposite one, then we'll say it should display its night and dark. Let's assign some equal to here as well, because that will create these corner cases in our code. Now up till here we have achieved whatever task was given. It's day and night, and let me just modify it a bit. If you Google around a bit, you'll find out that this inside these braces, it is an editable method, and we can pass our own this date, whatever the current date and time is, in the format of like year, and then month, then day, then hour, then minutes, then second, and up till, I think it goes on up till the millisecond one. So at least 6 parameters you can pass inside it. So up till here it is the date that we have passed, 11/3/2022, which will signify 11th of March 2022, and in here let me write 19. So when I say 19 here, okay, I think something is wrong. 19 means, let's make it 20. So why is it not changing color? I mean, why is it not changing the text? So if the current time is less than 18, is it due to these equal operators? Nope. Let me write 2 here. And if it is less than 18 and greater than 6, so it is less than 18, but here if I change it to something like 23, let me save it. Let me reload this once. I think that's the reason it's not updating. Okay, it is still displaying its day and bright. Let me check this again. Okay, we are rendering this greeting right here, and we haven't initialized it like anything. Let me see in the console. Okay, let me save it again. Let's open it inside our browser tab. Let us complete this task first, and then we'll see why it's not working like that. The third suggestion we have is we need to add the heading style class already present in styles.css. So if we head over here, you can see these little styling is also there, and in order to add this styling from this class of heading from styles.css, we know since it's a JavaScript file, we need to write class name instead of directly class. Okay, so if we do it like this, the font size will increase a bit and it will be in bold. The next thing is, using inline CSS, we need to make the font's color red during the day and green during night. So what we need to do is, let's remove this. We are going to make a constant and we'll call it style, and we'll have a color property in here which will be blank. So let's put it before we write our logic. So in here, what is the color we have to use? During the daytime, the color is supposed to be red. So if this is the case, in order to tap into the color property of style object, we'll write style.color and we'll say make it red. And if that is not the case, we will say style.color equals to green, like this. And in order to add it, we have to mention that style is equal to some JavaScript in here, and we pass this style here dynamically. Okay, so missing objects are not valid is a React child. Okay, we wrote it a little bit on the wrong side. Let me write it here. Okay, then now what was that? Hold on, we are messing something up, right? Cut it from here. We are displaying greeting right here. Okay, so greeting we have to make here, and then the style is to be added from here like this. Okay, so it was basically the error was coming because we were writing this particular style after this what do you call this, third bracket. So it's in bright, and now we can see it's in red color. The styling from the class of heading have been added here, and it is currently having this red color. Let me remove this comment and let's see what current time it is fetching from our system. Let me refresh this. Okay, still the time is 5. Yeah, it's close to 6, but still 5. Okay, let's edit this. 3, 11, and let's say we make this 23. This one comma after 3 as well. Okay, so now you can see, was I writing these in this particular bracket before? Might be. So anyways, inside this date object, this particular inside these braces, we can write as told before up to like 6 or 7 these numbers, which will represent like in the descending order of year, month, day, and so on. So by 23 we are representing that if the date is 11th March 2022 and the time is 23, that is 11 p.m. in the evening or night, the night time, so this particular condition will turn false because it is greater than 18, and it will jump here, and the greeting will be storing this particular string, and the color will change into green. And let's say if it was in the morning, after 6, let's say something around 8 a.m. in the morning, so it will say it's day and bright. And this is precisely what we ought to do, right? The heading is it's day and bright, it's night and dark. We have successfully added the heading class from styles.css, and the font's color is now changing. So basically, by writing this, let me just clear out this extra code from here, and let's save this one. I'll be providing the completed version of the sandbox. make sure to cross check it with your code. Okay. All right, so I hope you were able to do this particular challenge. So in there, like we saw in the previous session of ours, why were we trying to write the inline styling? So in here you saw that when we create that styling object of ours, styl, in that particular one we mentioned the key and value pairs, and using that based on some particular condition, like in this case we had the condition of whether in the form of hours, like whether it's during the daytime or the night time, we were altering the even the content that we had along with the styling applied to it. But in most of the cases, like I said, there are specific events. All right, let's say the first of every month we have a situation where the first of every month our website should display something and something because some particular discount or some particular sale is going on. So instead of like changing the all the source code, the changing the styling from the very initial code that we write every time, like every time when it's the another month is about to start, what we can rather do is set up make an arrangement like this by using these inline styling, and based on these conditions we can just tap into the properties like using the dot operator of these objects and change it according to the whatever the whatever desired outcome we want from it. So I hope you were able to solve this. If not, same advice, go back, clean slate, retry, watch the video. And with this, the styling associated with the React is now complete. If you think that something is missed up till now, you can drop comments down below and we'll see. And also, whatever, if any suggestion you have regarding anything to add, subtract or modify inside this whatever content we are making, feel free to share it with us. And that will be all from my side for this particular session.